In this episode, I wanted to give you a demo of Vagrant. Vagrant is the type of tool that you'll start to use and then wonder how you lived without it. It allows you to quickly build virtual environments from canned OS images with a focus on automation. You can quickly fire up a VM or a set of VMs that mimic your production environment. Then you can test your scripts, package installs, changes, tweaks, what have you, and then tear down the environment. This can happen in minutes, so it makes testing changes easy. Sure, you can do all this by hand, but Vagrant makes it much easier by automating many of the steps. There is a nice demo on the Vagrant website. Let's walk through it. If you want to duplicate the steps in this episode, you'll need to install VirtualBox, Ruby, and Vagrant. I've included the links in the episode notes below. We're going to run Vagrant box add, then the box name, and a URL where the box can be found. The Vagrant term for box means virtual machine. So we are really saying Vagrant virtual machine add, the name, and where we can pull the image from. I like to create a work directory, then initialize the Vagrant box from inside that directory. You can do this by running vagrant init lucid32, where lucid32 is the name of the box or virtual machine we just downloaded. A handy message is output, telling us a file named Vagrant file was created, and also directs us to the Vagrant website for additional documentation. The Vagrant file holds the configuration settings for this box. Let's take a quick peek at the Vagrant file. You can change many of the settings in this file. We can change things such as the network config, shared folders, and Puppet and Chef details. Just be aware that a box restart will likely be required before the changes take effect. Before we fire up the Vagrant box, I'm going to create a test file. This test file will be used to demonstrate how the shared folders work between the Vagrant box and your host machine. Let's go ahead and run Vagrant up. This creates a copy of the Lucid32 box that we downloaded earlier and boots it, along with any settings defined in the Vagrant file. What I love about this is that it creates a copy of the Lucid32 box. So each time that we run Vagrant up after a destroy, we get a clean duplicate of the Lucid32 box. This is especially helpful if we want to test some automated scripts and need a clean environment each time. You are free to test destructive changes too, without the labor-intensive tasks of recreating the environment. We are free to test changes. This is where I find Vagrant really useful. A neat feature of Vagrant is mentioned in the last two lines of output. Vagrant mounts our current directory inside the box as /vagrant. This is useful for sharing files between your host machine and the Vagrant box. A common workflow is to have an editor running on your host machine sitting in this directory, and then you can manipulate files on the Vagrant box via /vagrant. Listing the directory contents, you can see that we have the Vagrant file and the test file we created earlier. A helpful command is running Vagrant status. This allows you to see the current box state. Let's go ahead and run Vagrant SSH. This will connect us into the box. As you can see, we're greeted with the Ubuntu welcome message. I'll run uptime just so that we can verify this is actually a VM and it's been up for a brief period of time, and we're not actually on our host machine. As I mentioned earlier, there is a /vagrant mount. As you can see, our Vagrant file is here along with our test file. Let's go ahead and log out. We're going to run Vagrant destroy that will delete this box. A key concept, however, is that it only deletes this instance of the Lucid32 box, our copy, not the original we downloaded earlier. So we can run Vagrant up again and be presented with a copy of the Lucid32 box. This makes it easy to incrementally test changes in a new environment. So whether you're a developer wanting to test some code changes or an operations engineer wanting to test some package installs or scripts, Vagrant can be very useful. At this point, you're probably thinking Vagrant is pretty cool, but much like me, you're probably wondering how do you create your own images? You can check out episode number 5, where I'll give you a demo of Viwi, which can be used to create your own Vagrant boxes. Alright, that concludes this episode. Thanks for watching. If you would like to get notified about future episodes, please subscribe to my mailing list. You can do this by going to the Get Notified link in the header and entering your email address. Have questions, comments, or concerns about this episode? What about episode ideas? I'd love to hear your feedback, either good or bad. Shoot me an email, justin@sysadmincasts.com.